Hi, I'm Damari, and today I want to talk about understanding emotional triggers and how to work with them to heal. When we encounter discord in a relationship in our life, whether it's with a friend, a lover, a family member, or at work, we tend to look at the surface level of what occurred. We might assign fault, express anger for what we deem as unjust or inappropriate, and demand that it was changed. And possibly burn the bridges that brought us this pain as to reduce the chance that we'll ever have to experience it again. If we have the ability to self reflect, we might even recognize that we could have done better in some way and own our part in the situation. The more aware folks might also understand and find a way to express what needs they had that weren't met, and what boundaries they had that they felt were crossed, whether those were explicit or not. But what I would like to presence for you this week is this: beneath most of our deep emotional triggers that we think are about the thing that happened this week or this past week, there is much deeper wound, usually from early life. Most experts would say between the age of 0 to 8, that for the majority of people remain completely subconscious or unconscious. This deep young part of you is carrying around wounds or trauma that you were unable to process and integrate when you were really young. Aspects of this wound are still present in your physical and emotional body today and are driving your behavior, kind of like an operating system of a computer running a certain program. At this point, you might be thinking, well, I had a loving family and no trauma in my childhood, so this couldn't apply to me. Uh, I couldn't possibly have wounds from childhood. I invite you to consider that this is likely not true. Trauma, by definition, is a response to a deeply distressing and disturbing experience. Even if you didn't have anything terrible like abuse happen to you when you were young, you could easily and likely have wounds as a result of being part of a world where there is good and bad, and therefore some aspects of you were encouraged and celebrated, while other aspects were discouraged and rejected and maybe even punished. Most people today don't really know how to love themselves or other unconditionally, even if they think they do. Most of us are raised to believe we needed to be worthy of love from our surrounding and still carry this into our present adult self. These are real wounds. I can also tell you that one of the main wounds that I see in the people that I work with and I've had to integrate myself, and that is very alive for many of us today, is the wound of being unloved. To give you an example, you could have had a parent that were very loving and all your needs were seemingly met, but there was always immense amount of pressure on you to do well at school and be successful. When you didn't do well, your parents were angry with you, which felt like a withdrawal of love. So you learned that it wasn't safe to not be successful because that meant you wouldn't be loved and accepted. This is a wound, and 37-year-old you might be spinning their wheels trying to be successful at work and putting yourself under immense pressure, not realizing that what is driving this behavior is an unconscious younger self fearing that if you weren't really successful to society standards, you wouldn't be loved. So when your spouse asks you to slow down and work less, you get mad and you don't understand how they could ask this of you because you have no idea that you correlate not being successful with the risk of not being loved. Another example would be a person that had a lot of energy and confidence and expression when they were little. They were vocal and boisterous and probably not easy to manage by adults around them that wanted them to be different for their own sake. Many adults today were raised by parents who wanted them to fit in to a proper bracket, which usually translated to calm, quiet, contained, and obedient. After all, those are the kids that do well in our schooling system and who are celebrated by other adults. So if this is you, you might have heard that you were too much. When you were young, in an effort to make sure you became proper and manageable, you might have been punished or for being too much, to discourage it, and awarded when you were quiet and obedient. So this might be really subconscious for you that you have no conscious memory of that happening whatsoever. However, adult you might be afraid to speak up, or maybe needs a few drinks before you let yourself be really comfortable expressing yourself. Adult you might be afraid to express your thoughts at a meeting at work because fully expressing yourself doesn't feel safe. You might secretly be wishing that you started sharing your talent publicly with the world or started a business teaching something that you love, but you just can't quite bring yourself to do so. And you don't quite know why, just that it feels really scary. We all have triggers that stem from really old wounds, and while they often are not conscious, they certainly are a part of our lives and can get in the way of us living to our fullest potential. My point in this video is to invite you into a deeper level of awareness. What I want to invite you to do is become aware of this and start bringing your attention to this aspect of your own life. Consider that some of the repeated painful scenarios that you come across in your adult life might have to do with really deep wounds in your past that keep coming up so that you can get a chance to heal them. What I invite you to do is look at the main triggers in your life, those things that make you really reactive, like angry or shut down or want to leave and run. I'll offer a short process here, but I'd like to say that if either you know that you have really severe trauma in your past or you don't feel safe in your ability to be present with your emotions and wounds from your past, you should definitely do this kind of healing work with us with support. Please also note that if you are in a situation of physical danger or at risk of hurting yourself or others, this process is not adequate for you. Please do seek professional help immediately. So if you'd like to try this on your own, I recommend doing this somewhere quiet where you can go deep within and not be disturbed. So you begin by bringing up feeling and emotion that you experience when a specific trigger arises. You allow yourself to feel them fully and be present with yourself and notice this feeling if it feels familiar in your body. I can pretty much promise you that you felt this way many times before. Ask within you to be shown when was the first time you felt this way. Let whatever comes up, and trust it. Let it come up from like a deep well inside instead of chasing that thought. And be willing to be fully present with yourself in your experience. That's a big part of the healing. So once you're aware of that origin of this emotion, you can ask, what does it want you to know? What is it coming to show you? One way to do this is to imagine that the adult you gets a chance to help young version of you reparent, meaning a chance to give the young you what they didn't have back then. So ask them, what do they need from you? It might be reassurance or validation or help understanding something or a hug or a safe space. Anything that comes is fine. Tell them what you wished you were told. Hold them like you wish you were held. And give them what you wish they had. When this feels complete, allow this part of you to merge and integrate with the adult you, with the whole of you. And notice how it feels now in your body. Know that becoming aware of this root, of this emotional trigger, is a huge part of the healing, just the awareness itself. When you do this work, with time, you'll become aware of the real root behind your triggers and be able to address them where deep and long-lasting healing takes place. We meet our triggers in our lives because that is our soul's way of seeking integration back into wholeness from a fragmented state. Our pain is like a request for our attention and presence from the parts of ourselves that are needing our tending, the parts of ourselves that are asking to become whole again. If you're not quite sure how to do this on your own, I recommend getting a practitioner to support you or to try this process and be gentle with yourself. Know that some difficult, painful feelings will likely come up. So let yourself express them in whatever way you need. And at any point, if you feel like not safe doing it alone, you can stop and seek support. And it's important to not get discouraged when you do this. This work is really powerful and it will change your life when you start becoming aware and tending to your triggers at the root instead of at the surface level where you just keep running into the same scenarios and people and situations again and again as these parts of you continue to seek integration and healing. I hope this week's video was helpful to you, and thank you so much for being here and for choosing to live in awareness. All my love to you.